Good evening, everyone. You're welcome to the 6 p.m. newscast on Équinoxe Television. In our top stories, booksellers in the country blame the COVID-19 pandemic to be the reason why they are reaping a low income maximization. Some of them highlight the Anglophone crisis to be a contributing factor to low profit maximization as well. They are hoping that things will get better in the days ahead as the next academic year draws near. We equally talk about the two English-speaking regions of the country, the Northwest and Southwest regions, that have once again projected to distinguish themselves as the most brilliant regions in Cameroon regarding their performances in the 2021 baccalaureate examination results published by the baccalaureate boards. The Northwest and Southwest regions come at the first and second positions with 69.82% and 60% respectively. Third by the Littoral region with 58%. In this edition of the newscast, we'll be having an educationist who will be giving us a comprehension on these performances of the two English-speaking regions that is recurrent and tremendous, and you'll be telling us how the students managed to make it successfully once again in a conflict-hit region. Those were top stories. Once again, good evening. You're welcome to the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe Television, where we broadcasting live from the nation's economic capital, Douala. We begin with the accident that occurred at the Mbekleaf, not far from Gaundere, chief town of the Adamawa region of the country. Victims of that accident, those who sustained injuries, are responding to treatments at the Gaundere Regional Hospital. It should be remembered that 4 persons died in the accident that involved the Danai Inter-Urban Transport Agency. It was a 70-seater bus that ran off the road and crashed into a tree. Details in this report compiled by Mala Glory.
They are victims of an accident which occurred in the late hours of Wednesday morning at the Mbekleaf in the Adamawa region. Due to excess speed, the public transport vehicle lost control, causing him to hit a tree at the roadside. 4 people died on the spot and many others were injured.
Les premiers cas sont arrivés autour de 11 heures.
The first cases were received between 11 a.m. and 11:30. We have 4 persons dead and several persons wounded. The 4 people who passed away during the accident include a 3-year-old child, an 18-year-old student, and 2 adults of 55 and 70. Passengers who sustained injuries have been transported to the Gaundere General Hospital. The doctor came in and we had to do everything to stop the bleeding, which we shall proceed by carrying out a scan on the leg. 6 are at the reanimation center, 3 are actually going through operation, while the injured ones are being taken care of.
Quelques blessés qui sont pris en charge actuellement au niveau de l'accueil et urgence.
Meanwhile, road accidents have been on the rise lately in Cameroon. Many blame the situation on overspeeding and bad road network. Road users are advised to respect the highway code in order to reduce the number of accidents that occur daily.
Fights against urban disorders what preoccupies the divisional officer for Limbe 2 in the southwest region of the country. He recently met with leaders of the commercial motorbike riding sector, and he told them that there are streets that the motorbike riders must not use in order to enhance order in the subdivision. That's Limbe 2. Details with Davidson Maimo.
The entrance to Atlantic Beach Hotel. moving straight down, passing in front of the SDO's office to Bear, we will not like to see a bike there. Don't use that road. We advise you to stay away from that road, because if you are caught using that road, your bike is going to be pounded. For now, just let us deal with that stretch.
The decision by the divisional officer of Limbe 1 subdivision, Acha Gibet Quanti, banning commercial motorbike riders not to ply the Atlantic Beach entrance, or better still, junction to the SDO residence, passing through press print, SDO's office, the banks up to Mars, was arrived at in a meeting with some leaders aimed at reorganizing the sector.
You have the whole town. We are taking just 1% from you at this point. Just 1%. It's not up to 1%. It's just a little fraction. Tell your colleague you should stay away from that area.
The duo equally said bikes with additional fog lamps shall be impounded.
You get a bike, you take away the headlamps, and you superimpose your own fog lamps, and which accounts for most of the accidents that we have. Because at night, when you flash it on somebody, it becomes impossible to have control of the bike or even a car. Your bike is intercepted with those fog lamps. It's going to be impounded, and you have to pay some heavy fines to have you released.
For the first time, commercial motorbike riders openly say a decision from the administration against them is correct.
They are refusing that street because that street is the SDO street, and most of the administrators, that is where they always come and meet. So I think for that idea, it's good to secure our administration.
They say don't go to the office. I don't know. The people who are working there, they want to suffer.
If the SDO see or 1 or 2 reasons that the bike should not fly that area because of its own reason, yes, I myself is very correct.
The riders blame the attitude of some of their peers.
But with us bike, there's a lot of insecurity. People can run away faster with bike.
The divisional officer, together with the mayor of Limbe 1 Council, says in the days ahead, commercial motorbikes within Limbe 1 shall be divided into 5 sectors under the canopy of Limbe 1 Council for proper identification, so as to solve the issue of insecurity within the sector and to an extent, Limbe 1 municipality.
That was the divisional officer of the Limbe 1 subdivision stepping up efforts to fight against urban disorder in the municipality. And now we talk about the National Order of Civil Engineers, who have called on Cameroonians to make use of professionals whenever they have a project to construct a house or establishment. This declaration was made by Kisito Ngwa, president of the National Order of Civil Engineers, as he installed the Douala chapter president. Siman Njukam Gabriel witnessed the installation. He compiled this report.
In the country, several houses have collapsed, leaving people injured or dead. The incident most of the time are blamed on the contractors hired by the owners.
It's very important that every citizen in Yaoundé and in the region in general understand that in all our projects we would like to realize in our country and in our region, it's very important to involve civil engineers. Very important because if it's not the case, it's possible to have some collapse of building, for example, or other defaults coming because we do not respect the rule of hearts.
Apart from houses, the construction of roads, the supply of water in Cameroon, most of the time, the contracts are being awarded to those who are not qualified. While putting in place the president of the littoral branch of the National Order of Engineers, the national president of the order warns those who have plans to build houses or involved in the construction of roads, calling on them to call on the engineers fit for such jobs.
It's very important that everybody understand that if you would like to build your home, perhaps a bridge, perhaps a road, you have to involve the professional. When we speak about professional in the civil engineering, we speak of civil engineer. So it's very important that everybody understand this thing.
The National Order of Civil Engineers has a membership of more than 3,000 engineers.
Health authorities in Cameroon warn that the number of hepatitis cases is on the rise at an alarming rate, according to a nurse based in Yaoundé, the nation's political capital. One of the major causes of the sharp increase is unhealthy sexual practices. In commemoration of World Hepatitis Day, that was yesterday, the population is advised to get themselves vaccinated against hepatitis. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
Highly contagious. Compared to other viral diseases like HIV and AIDS, hepatitis is fast gaining grounds in Cameroon.
Hepatitis is an inflammation of the liver. The liver is a large meaty organ in the abdomen. So when you have hepatitis, this liver gets larger, it gets inflamed, and then it's no longer able to fully perform its functions. It's essential, therefore, that we all take vaccination against hepatitis, especially hepatitis B, because it is the type of hepatitis that is incurable. It's important that we all take our vaccinations.
According to a recent research carried out by the World Health Organization, the prevalence rate of hepatitis B stands at 10%, while 12% for hepatitis C, making it 3 times higher than that of HIV and AIDS, which stands at 3.4%. The Far North region is the most affected region in the country. The major causes of hepatitis are
unprotected sexual intercourse. It could be vaginal, it could be anal, or it could be oral. Each of these with an infected person can cause the spread of hepatitis. Other factors, we could also have hepatitis living from the mother to the baby during pregnancy or delivery. We could also have hepatitis being spread among people that use the same needle, especially drug addicts. That's why we find a lot of hepatitis among drug users.
Persons diagnosed with hepatitis in Cameroon decry the high rate of treatment. In commemoration of the World Hepatitis Day observed each year on July 28th, the population is advised to know their status and equally get vaccinated against the deadly disease.
And on to another issue. Booksellers in the country say the COVID-19 pandemic is putting wrinkles on their faces than a smile as a result of low purchase of their textbooks and other school manuals displayed in their various bookshops. Some booksellers highlight the Anglophone crisis to the low profit maximization. Details with Mala Glory.
Booksellers are running out of business due to the coronavirus pandemic, the closure of some schools, and a slowdown in the importation of books last year affected the bookseller income. Prior to this situation, the National Union of Booksellers and Stationers gathered in Douala against the 2021-2022 academic year to find possible solutions and to call on government actions.
Ever since the pandemic started, first, schools had to close, and you know, our business solely depends on schools for us to make our revenue. And with the closure of schools, it really dropped down our turnover, our revenue. It's a drastic situation, and even at now that schools have resumed, you know, it's still not the same like before. And before, if you could place an order for 500 books, you're sure of selling all. 200 books, you're sure of selling all. But now you get to sell 50, 20. You still have books on the counters.
The crisis in the Northwest and Southwest has as well affected the sale of books in these regions.
As an institution, we are already placed in those regions, the Northwest and the Southwest regions. We have shops in Bamenda, Boya, Limbe, Kumba. But because of the crisis, Mondays, ghost town. There's no way. Parents are afraid to send your children to school. They are not sure of buying the books, because if they buy the books, maybe the children will not even use it in school. So it's the same situation. Before, we were thinking that when things regularize, we could pick up back with the sales, but it's still the same.
According to another bookseller, the sale of books in schools, which is against the law, is a contributing factor. Parents and students buy from their schools, leaving that of the bookseller to waste on the shelves. The organization have been grouped into different segments in different regions to fight against the sale of books in schools.
Travaillons ensemble avec les autorités compétentes de la ville.
We have put in place measures to handle schools who go ahead to sell books in their institutions. We already have lawyers who are working on the matter.
Des libraires, parce que cette année nous avons des
booksellers wait on the government to put in place appropriate measures to improve the sector.
Though affected adversely by the armed conflict of the Anglophone crisis that matured or transformed into a bloody armed conflict in Anglophone regions of Cameroon, the two English-speaking regions have once again recorded a tremendous and recurrent performance in the 2021 session of the General Baccalaureate exams, thus projecting themselves as the most brilliant regions. Following statistics published by the Baccalaureate Board, 52.72% is the national rate registered this year, a decrease to the 57.14% registered in 2020. As to what concerns regions that performs above the national percentage, four did distinguish themselves, amongst them the Northwest region with 69.86%, ranking first nationally, Southwest region second with a 60% pass, Littoral region third with 58%, and fourth Adamawa region with 51.41%. Last year, the Northwest and Southwest regions occupied same positions. Meantime, the West region moved from position 3, it occupied last year, to position 6 this 2021 with a success rate of 50.67%. The registration rates in this year's exams, however, increased with 104,692 candidates as compared to 90,759 candidates last year, thus an addition of 13,933 candidates this 2021. Up next, Talking Point. Good evening once again. Thanks for joining us. And today's Talking Point, we're having as guest Dr. Nick Ngwanyami is an educationist. We'll be talking on the performance of the two English-speaking regions of the country in the baccalaureate examination results released recently. Good evening, Doctor.
Thank you. Good evening.
You certainly have statistics of the baccalaureate examination results published by the Baccalaureate Board. And you look at the tremendous and recurrent performance of the two English-speaking regions in crisis. How do we understand this?
Thank you very much. I like when you say in crisis, and how do we understand that? Because statistics, if you don't know how to interpret statistics, you go away with the impression that you got it right. But in reality, those statistics are very, very deceitful. Okay, I would explain, and you see they're very deceitful, and we shouldn't go by them. And then beyond the statistics, when we'll be looking at those results, we'll be asking the real questions. All those children who have passed, what's their future? Then we'll be giving advice to those children who didn't make it, so that they know that the outside world is not determined by exams. It's very important.
Are you saying that the statistics should be ignored? That is just a way to perhaps encourage other students in the Northwest and Southwest regions to school amidst the socio-political tension?
Well, let us look at at some other figures that you didn't read in those statistics. When you hear that the Northwest was 60%?
The Northwest 69.8%.
69%, almost 70%. But you have to ask the question: how many students sat for that examination? There were just about 700 students. Then when you compare with the littoral had about 25,000 students sitting for these exams, and then the Central region had about 33 or 35,000 students. So when you just look at percentage, you get it wrong. and you think, oh, the students in the Northwest, they did very well and so on. But if the students in the Northwest also had 25,000 students, and then you are comparing the 25,000 students in the Northwest with the 25,000 students in Littoral, then you will be saying something useful. You know, it's just like, you know, we have some of these cute results. Let me go back to the GCE. And let me show you some of the tricks that some of the school proprietors have been doing. You know, schools like Sacred Heart, Our Lady of Lourdes, and some of all those schools have been doing so well, having 100% all the time. Now, when you hear Sacred Heart had 100%, and then you ask, what did Casbah-Millie have? They will say Casbah-Millie had 80%, and you think that Sacred Heart did better than Cas. It's wrong. Because when you go to Casbah-Millie, you will find out that they had almost close to 1,000 students who made it at the GCE, you know, 700 and above and so on, and they also have the A's and the whatever. So in terms of the work done and their usefulness to the community, though CAST had 80% and not 100%, but when you look at the total number of people or the job that they did a better job. I mean, to understand again, it's like saying that an Okada will carry 2 persons and go very fast, but a bus will carry 75 persons and go slowly, but the bus will deliver more. Is it making some sense? Yeah, I want people to not get carried away by those statistics. And then there's some other thing that we have to look to understand those statistics. You see, these children were concentrated in Bamenda and somewhere in Boya, I don't know where. And these students, the ratio of the teachers to the student was skewed. You have more teachers than there were students, so more attention could be paid to them, and therefore that's not what was not what was happening in the other schools in the Republic. Because of the war, you had these few students that gathered there, and they had more teachers than the rest of the nation. And above all, you still want to know what was done and what was not done, because there's a lot of cheating going on in our exams in the nation. So all those things have to be taken into consideration. But beyond these things that they are so emotional and we get carried away with, we have to ask the real questions. I mean, for the past 30 years, students have been scoring so many percent, so many thousands. The question is, after those thousands, what next? All the children, they go out, they come back, and they're riding on motorcycles. So there's homework that we as a nation, we ought to be doing, and I'm going to advise most of these students to go to professional schools and learn a profession, and to also insist that we have to begin to help our children to understand that working in the civil service is not the best place to be. I mean, I guess those that will write the concours at the end of the day, there will not be more than 5,000 in all of those schools, ENAM and whatever. And so the civil service has just about 300,000 people, and that's already too much. So we need to be reorientating what we do in the nation, and to also continue to say that even though we might rejoice over these results, I think the A-levels will also be coming out. There is need for our educational system to be changed, because what we are doing so far is not what we ought to be doing.
Well, you went far, but let me just come back to you regarding the performance, just like you analyzed there. And are you not seeing that what is being calculated is the pass mark? We're not calculating the number of students who took part in the examination. Have you thought of, if okay, you said 700 sat in the Northwest region,
yeah,
let's say it was equal in other regions, don't you think the past result can be disastrous in the other regions if you had to say all the 10 regions recorded at least 700 candidates in the examination centers?
Well, if everybody picked their best students and we had 700 students registering in all the centers, they will all beat Bamenda.
Are you saying in the Northwest, Southwest, just brilliant students were picked up to write the examination?
No, there were just a select few students coming from, because in those back students, there are very few Anglophone students in there. So these are children of civil servants working in those areas, and therefore they are children of the middle or upper class, so to speak, children of governors, military people, colonels, and so on. I mean, those that could afford to keep their children there under their noses. Because if you go, I'm sure, if you look at the centers, there will be GBHS, Bamenda, and somewhere up Mendankwe, and so on. Some people, just a little group of people, and they a select group of children who eat eggs and Volvatin.
So are you trying to maybe bring an element of favoritism here? Because if those of the underprivileged had the opportunity to go to school, they won't have recorded this pass mark.
What I'm saying is that is not a natural selection. Those group of children is not a natural selection. While when you come to the other regions, you go to Adamawa and so on, that's a natural selection. You have children who get up in the morning and have to go 3 kilometers to get water. All those guys, they don't have food to eat. So it's not the same. But this little group of 700 children is not the natural selection.
And some persons will tell you that in a nutshell, even before the Anglophone crisis, the students in the Northwest, Southwest have always been very brilliant and always been performing extremely very well than those in the other regions.
That's right.
Is there no magic?
No, it's not a magic.
Are we talking about the education?
Let's come again back to the classrooms here in the littoral and find out what is the number of students, what is the student to teacher ratio in the classes here, and then go back to the Northwest. Most of those schools doing that back thing in the Northwest and Southwest are the government schools, and the student teacher ratio, there are fewer students per teacher. Are you getting me? And the classes are not as full as you would have them over here. All right, so it's a demand supply kind of thing that is playing there. Okay, and I told you that those children are kind of like selected. It's not they don't represent the real population of students in Cameroon.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Nick.
Thank you
for coming.
Thank you very much.
Of course, you are an educationist, and thank you for your expertise.
Yes. We need to change our education in Cameroon so that we can get to that 2035. If we don't change the education, we are not getting. It's just paperwork. We will not get there.
Okay, thank you so very much once again. And to you viewers, thanks so much for being part of this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Équinoxe Television. Do have a splendid evening. Tomorrow is another day. Thanks.